Why it sucked to be an Egyptian astronomer. Hey guys, tonight we're setting our sights on the ancient world, to a time when the heavens were a ceiling painted by the gods themselves. We're going to be talking about the life of an Egyptian astronomer, a figure who stood at the very crossroads of science, religion, and the immense, overwhelming power of the pharaoh. So, before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what we do here. It truly helps the channel find other sleepless souls like us. And as always, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is. I like to imagine someone in a tiny apartment in Tokyo, another in a cabin in Norway, and someone else in bed at 3:47 a.m. in Milwaukee, wondering how astronomy turned into this. Now dim the lights if you haven't already. Let the world outside your window fade away. Maybe there's a gentle hum from a fan, or the soft whisper of leaves in the breeze. Let's create our own little pocket of tranquility and journey back together across the sands of time to the banks of the Nile. The air is cool and still, the kind of profound silence that only exists in the hour before dawn. The moon, a sliver of alabaster, hangs low over the western desert, and the Milky Way is a shimmering silken ribbon spilled across the velvet blackness. You are awake. You have been for some time. Sleep, for you, is not a right, but a rationed luxury. You are an hour priest, a servant of the gods, and more specifically, a watcher of the skies. Your official title might be something grand, like Overseer of the Course of the Moon, or Prophet of Sothis. But the reality of your job is far less poetic. You are, in essence, a divine timekeeper, and the fate of the entire kingdom rests, in some small, terrifying way, on your shoulders. Your observatory isn't a grand domed structure. It's the flat roof of a temple or a palace, exposed to the elements. The cool night air seeps into your linen robes. You climb the steep, narrow steps, your footsteps the only sound besides the distant chirp of a night bird. Up here, the world falls away. There are no sounds of the waking city yet, no merchants preparing their stalls, no children laughing. There is only you, the star-dusted sky, and the immense, crushing weight of responsibility. Your primary duty, the one that consumes your nights and dictates your days, is maintaining the calendar. It sounds simple, doesn't it? A task for an administrator, perhaps. But in ancient Egypt, the calendar is everything. It is a sacred pact between the gods and humanity, a roadmap for survival. The entire agricultural cycle, the lifeblood of the kingdom, depends on the annual flooding of the Nile. Plant too early, and the seeds will wither in the sun-baked earth. Plant too late, and the life-giving floodwaters will wash them away. Getting it right is the difference between a bountiful harvest and widespread famine. And how do you know when the flood is coming? You watch the stars. Specifically, you watch for the heliacal rising of the star Sirius, which the Egyptians called Sopdet. For months, this brilliant star is absent from the night sky. But on one specific morning just before sunrise, it will reappear on the eastern horizon for the first time. That celestial event heralds the coming inundation of the Nile. It is the true beginning of the new year. So every morning, in this pre-dawn chill, you are here, your eyes trained on the horizon. You're not just looking, you're searching. And you're praying. Praying that you haven't miscalculated. Praying that a stray cloud doesn't obscure the view on the crucial morning. Because if you miss it, if you declare the new year on the wrong day, the consequences are unthinkable. The planting season will be off, the harvest will fail, the people will starve, and the Pharaoh, who is a living god, will not be pleased. The gods, whose favor you are meant to secure, will be seen as angry, and the blame, a heavy pointed finger, will land squarely on you. This isn't just about agriculture either. The entire religious life of the kingdom is dictated by your star charts. Every festival, every ceremony, every ritual offering to the gods has to happen at a precise, astronomically determined moment. These aren't suggestions, they are divine appointments. Performing a ritual at the wrong time is not just a social faux pas. It is an insult to the gods, an unraveling of Ma'at, the fundamental cosmic order and balance that keeps chaos at bay. And you, my friend, are the one who has to make sure that doesn't happen. No pressure, right? Your tools are rudimentary, almost laughably simple for the magnitude of your task. You have a merkit, which is essentially a plumb line attached to a wooden handle. You use it to establish a perfect north-south line, a celestial meridian. You also have a bay, a simple palm rib with a notch cut into it, which you use as a sighting tool. You sit, aligning the Merkit with a distant mark, and watch as the stars drift across this line, an ancient, organic form of a celestial transit. There are no telescopes, no complex mathematical formulas to fall back on. It is just your keen eye, your steady hand, and generations of meticulously recorded observations, often inscribed on the inside of coffin lids. Yes, coffin lids. Because in Egypt, death is just another state of being, and the underworld needs a good calendar too. These star charts, called diagonal calendars, were painted on the inner surface of coffins to help the deceased tell the time during their journey through the 12 hours of the night. So, while you're up on this chilly roof, straining your eyes, remember that your life's work, your meticulous, back-breaking observations, will likely end up as a helpful travel guide for a mummy. It's a uniquely Egyptian form of job security. And your job isn't just about the big, show-stopping events like the return of Sopdet. It is a nightly, hourly grind. You are an hour priest, after all. Your primary task is to track the deacons. These are 36 specific stars or star groups that rise on the horizon in succession throughout the night. The rising of a new decan marks the beginning of a new hour. You are the kingdom's clock. So you sit and you watch. Your back aches from crouching, your neck is a stiff column of protest. You align your notched palm rib, the bay, with the meridian line you established with your Merkit. You fix your gaze on a single point in the star-dusted darkness, and you wait. You watch one deacon slowly, glacially approach the line. You note its passage, then you shift ever so slightly and wait for the next one. An hour has passed. The temple priests below can now begin the next phase of their nocturnal rituals. You have successfully performed your duty. Now do it again, and again, for the next 10 hours. It is a profound and intimate experience, this silent communion with the cosmos. You know the stars not as distant balls of fire, but as familiar faces. You see the celestial hippo, Taweret, lumbering across the northern sky, never setting, a constant guardian. You recognize the great leg of the bull, Meskitiyu, our Big Dipper, a symbol of strength. You see Sa Orion, the great hunter, striding across the heavens, his belt of 3 bright stars a familiar landmark in the celestial geography. You see their beauty, the sheer, overwhelming majesty of it all. The way the starlight glimmers, soft and ancient. The subtle shifts in color, the fierce red of Antares, the brilliant blue-white of Vega. You are watching the slow, silent dance of the gods. And in these moments, a profound sense of peace can settle over you. A feeling of being part of something eternal, something vast and incomprehensible. And then a gust of wind blows sand in your eye. Suddenly the poetic majesty is gone, replaced by gritty, stinging reality. You're blinking furiously, your vision blurring. Did you miss it? Did the decan star cross the meridian while you were temporarily blinded by the desert itself? You have to make a judgment call. Record it as past and risk being a few minutes off, or wait and risk throwing off the schedule for the rest of the night. The gods, you suspect, are not forgiving of clerical errors caused by sand. And what about clouds? In a land known for its clear skies, a cloudy night is a special kind of hell. It is not an excuse. It is an omen. The gods have veiled their faces. They are displeased. Now your job description expands. You are no longer just an astronomer. You are a theologian. You must interpret this celestial silence. Was it the baker in the temple kitchens who used a fraction less honey in the offering cakes? Was it the pharaoh's third wife who wore the wrong color linen yesterday? Or was it you? Did you misalign the Merkit? Your report in the morning cannot simply say, cloudy, couldn't see. It must be a carefully worded, deeply considered analysis of divine mood swings. You, the astronomer, have become a celestial meteorologist of godly emotions. Then comes the paperwork. Oh, the paperwork. Your observations must be recorded meticulously on rolls of papyrus. Using a reed brush and ink made from soot and water, you carefully draw the hieroglyphs. Your hand cramps. The ink smudges. A mosquito, drawn to the faint light of your oil lamp, dives into the wet ink, sacrificing itself to ruin your report on the 3rd hour of the night. You spend the next precious minutes trying to scrape its little legs and smeared ink off the sheet without tearing the fragile papyrus. After your long, cold vigil, Just as the first hint of rose and gold touches the eastern horizon, your work isn't over. You don't get to stumble off to a warm bed. Now you must descend the temple steps and report to the high priest. He is warm. He has slept. He has already had a small breakfast of bread and dates. He listens to your report, his face a mask of serene authority. You tell him that the star you call the baboon's left eye seems to have dimmed slightly over the past 10 days. You say this as a point of scientific interest. He hears it as a catastrophic prophecy. Dimmed, he'll say, his voice dangerously soft. The baboon is an avatar of Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing. Is wisdom fading from the kingdom? Should we schedule an emergency festival? Double the offerings? I will need a full report on the theological implications of this dimming by noon. Suddenly, your simple observation has become a bureaucratic nightmare. You are no longer a scientist. You are the author of a memo that could launch a kingdom-wide religious panic. And you haven't even had a sip of water yet. This is the central frustration of your existence. You are a man of science, of observation, of quiet facts, but you work in a world of omens, symbols, and divine tempers. You see a meteor streak across the sky, a beautiful, fleeting trail of light, and your first thought isn't wonder, it's a weary sigh. Now you have to figure out what that means. Was it a message? A warning? Did it come from the direction of the Hittites, foretelling war? Or from the south, promising a good flood? Your opinion, backed by the evidence of the sky, could influence foreign policy. It could be the deciding factor in whether an army marches, all because a random piece of space rock decided to burn up in the atmosphere at that particular moment. You, the humble star watcher, have become an unwilling political advisor, your every utterance carrying the weight of the cosmos. And so your day begins, a reverse of everyone else's. While the rest of the world is energized by the sun, you are drained by it. The sun, a source of life and power for the entire kingdom, the mighty god Ra in his solar bark sailing across the sky, is for you simply the thing that ends your workday. It blots out your field of study. It is, in essence, a celestial curtain call on your nightly performance. But your timekeeping duties don't end. Oh no, now you are responsible for the shadow clocks. In the main temple courtyard stands an obelisk, a great stone needle pointing to the heavens. As the sun moves, its shadow creeps across marked lines on the ground, indicating the hours of the day. It's a beautifully simple, elegant system, and it is your job to monitor it. On a clear day, it's straightforward. You note the time, ensuring the temple's daily rituals, the midday offerings, the afternoon prayers, happen on schedule. But what if it's an overcast day? The kind where the sky is a flat, pearly gray, and the sun is just a general brightness with no distinct source? The shadow becomes a faint, fuzzy, indistinct smear. Once again, you are at the mercy of the weather. You have to squint, guess, and make another judgment call. You walk around the obelisk, tilting your head, trying to find the densest part of the blur. The priests are waiting for your signal. The entire temple is on pause because you can't quite decide if that faint smudge means it's the third hour or if it's just a particularly stubborn patch of haze. You, the master of the heavens, are defeated by a few wisps of water vapor. The pressure is different from the nocturnal kind, less cosmic, more immediate. You can feel the impatient gaze of the high priest on your back. It's the ancient Egyptian equivalent of your boss standing behind you, clearing his throat while you try to fix a spreadsheet error. When you are finally relieved of your shadow-watching duties, you might have to spend the afternoon with your apprentice. You have to pass this knowledge on, after all. You have to train the next poor soul who will lose sleep for the sake of the gods. You sit with him in a shaded corner of the temple library, a room filled with scrolls stacked in clay jars. It smells of old papyrus and dust. You try to explain the celestial meridian, the profound importance of the Merket. You speak of the deacons, of Sopdet, of the sacred rhythm of the cosmos. Your apprentice, a young man with earnest eyes and a mind that seems to be mostly occupied by thoughts of bread and beer, nods along dutifully. But you can see he's not quite grasping it. He's memorizing the words, but he's not feeling the weight behind them. So, if I hold the palm rib just so, he says, squinting through the notch, I will know when to tell the priests to chant? Yes, you say, with the infinite patience of the perpetually tired. You will be telling them that the hour has passed, that the universe has turned another gear, and that the gods are watching to ensure we honor their celestial journey. Right, the gods. And this is more accurate than just guessing. You take a slow, deep breath and remind yourself that Thoth, the god of wisdom, was also the god of patience. You explain again that guessing angers the gods, that accuracy maintains Maat, and that a misplaced hour could lead to famine, pestilence, and a very unpleasant performance review with the pharaoh. He nods, but his eyes wander to a lizard sunning itself on the wall. You can tell he's wondering if he could have gotten a job as a sandal maker instead. You can't blame him. Some days you wonder the same thing. Then it's back to the paperwork. That report on the dimming star won't write itself. You must now consult the archives. You pull down heavy clay jars, unsealing them, and carefully unrolling scrolls that are hundreds of years old. The papyrus is brittle. It crackles ominously as you handle it. You scan through records left by astronomers long dead. Their handwriting is archaic, the phrasing obscure. You're looking for any mention of the baboon's left eye dimming in the past. Here is a note from the reign of Amenemhat II. The star dimmed, and 3 months later the kingdom suffered a locust plague. A coincidence or a precedent? Here's another from a century before that. The star dimmed, and the pharaoh's favorite wife gave birth to healthy twin sons. So is it a sign of pestilence or of fertility? The data, your precious historical data, is contradictory. It offers no easy answers. Your conclusion, therefore, must be a masterpiece of ambiguity. You must write a report that acknowledges the potential for disaster while also allowing for the possibility of great fortune. It must be humble, yet authoritative. It must sound wise, while essentially saying, it could be very bad, or it could be very good. Let's increase the offerings, just in case. You are not just a scientist or a priest. You are a lawyer for the cosmos, arguing a case with no evidence before a jury that believes in divine wrath. Finally, as the afternoon sun begins its descent, casting long, golden shadows across the sand, you are dismissed. Your day is over. You can go home. You walk out of the cool, dark temple and into the blinding light. The city is alive with noise and energy. Merchants are haggling, children are playing, donkeys are braying. The air is thick with the smells of roasting meat, baking bread, and the river. And you are a ghost here. You are a creature of the night, blinking in the aggressive glare of the day. Your body craves sleep. Your mind is still buzzing with star charts and contradictory omens. You see people laughing with their families, and you feel a pang of longing. Your own family is used to your strange hours. You are a loving father, a devoted husband, but you are always out of sync. When your children wake, you are asleep. When you wake, they are preparing for bed. You kiss their sleeping heads, a silent visitor in your own home. Your life is lived in the negative space of everyone else's. Your home is a modest mud brick dwelling, mercifully cool in its shadowy interior. You nod to your wife, who is busy grinding wheat, her movements rhythmic and familiar. She gives you a tired but understanding smile. She knows the look in your eyes. It is the look of a man who has spent the night conversing with infinity and has returned with a cosmic headache. Your children are out playing, their shouts and laughter filtering in from the sun-drenched street outside. These are the sounds of the life you are missing, the life that happens while you are recovering. You retreat to your sleeping chamber, a small dark room. You hang a heavy reed mat over the doorway, a futile attempt to block out the day. But the sun of Egypt is relentless. It finds its way through every crack and weave, painting lines of light on the far wall. The sounds of the world are muffled, but not gone. You can still hear the distant shouting of a merchant selling his wares, the rhythmic thud of your wife's grinding stone, the shrill laugh of a child. You lie down on your bed, a simple wooden frame with woven reeds for a mattress. You close your eyes, but you don't see darkness. You see the afterimage of the sky. The deacon stars wheel behind your eyelids. You mentally rehearse the report on the baboon's left eye, wondering if you should have used the word subtle instead of dimmed. You think about your apprentice and his fascination with lizards. Sleep does not come easily. Your mind is a noisy library of celestial data and earthly worries. When you finally do drift off, it is a thin, fragile sleep, easily torn by the sounds of the living world outside. And always in the back of your mind, tucked away like a scroll of bad prophecies, is the fear of the truly unusual, the unexpected, the events that no amount of routine observation can prepare you for. I'm talking about eclipses. For a modern person, a solar eclipse is a wonder, a breathtaking, beautiful event. People travel thousands of miles, buy special glasses, and gather in fields to witness it. For you, an Egyptian astronomer, it is the single most terrifying event that can happen during your career. It is a professional and theological catastrophe. Because you are not just seeing the moon pass in front of the sun, you are witnessing the great sun god, Ra, being swallowed by a demon. You are watching the divine solar bark, which should be sailing majestically across the sky, come under attack. The sky darkens at midday, the birds fall silent, a strange cold twilight descends. The people in the streets will begin to wail. This is not a curiosity, this is the unraveling of Ma'at. This is chaos made manifest, and you might have known it was coming. Based on centuries of records, you and your predecessors have likely identified certain cycles, patterns that suggest when such an event might occur. You have a good idea that on this particular day, the sun might be devoured. But what can you do with this knowledge? You cannot go to the high priest and say, "Your Eminence, on the third day of the month of Thout, the moon will temporarily obscure the sun due to predictable orbital mechanics. It will last for approximately 4 minutes. No need for alarm." To say such a thing would be the highest form of blasphemy. It would be denying the reality of the gods. It would be like telling a modern-day general that a nuclear missile is just a fascinating display of physics. You would be stripped of your position, if not your life. So you know it's coming, but you have to pretend you don't. Your job is not to prevent panic with science, but to manage the terror with religion. You have to be ready. This is the ultimate test of your skills, not as an astronomer, but as a celestial stage manager. When the moment comes, when the first dark bite appears on the edge of the sun, you must be the first to raise the alarm. You must be the one to lead the temple in its frantic, desperate response. Suddenly, you are at the center of a storm of ritual. Priests will begin to beat drums, a thunderous, frantic rhythm to frighten the demon. They will clash cymbals, they will chant ancient, powerful incantations, spells designed to protect Ra and drive back the forces of darkness. And you, the man who understands the quiet, predictable geometry of it all, must be the most fervent performer. You have to shout the loudest. You have to raise your arms to the darkening sky and plead with the gods, your voice filled with a convincing terror. You know, with the certainty of science, that the sun will return. But your entire world, your very survival, depends on convincing everyone that it is your rituals, your faith, your performance that is saving it. For those few minutes of totality, as the world is plunged into an eerie darkness and the sun's ethereal corona shimmers like a ghostly crown in the sky, you are the focal point of the kingdom's hope and fear. You are a scientist forced to play the role of a shaman, a timekeeper forced to act out a myth. It is the most profound, soul-crushing lie. And then, as your calculations predicted, a sliver of brilliant light returns. The demon is in retreat. The drumming softens. The chanting turns to cheers of relief. The sun is reborn. And you are a hero. You have faced down the apocalypse and won. The high priest will clasp your shoulder. The pharaoh will send you gifts. But in the quiet of your own heart, you feel a hollowness. You didn't save the world. You just knew the schedule. And you're left with the exhausting secret knowledge that the universe is far stranger and far more orderly than your job will ever allow you to admit. And after the terror, after the feigned panic and the genuine relief of the crowds, after you have been hailed as a hero for chasing away a demon you knew was just a shadow, you return to your post. The night after the eclipse is just another night. The same stars, the same deacons, the same slow, patient procession across the sky. The world may think you wrestled with chaos, but you know the truth. You just watched the universe keep its own flawless schedule. This is the strange, secret gift of your frustrating life. It is the silent knowledge that you carry, a truth you can never speak aloud. While the kingdom sees the sky as a canvas for divine drama, a place of capricious gods and menacing monsters, you see the mechanism. You see the elegant, predictable, beautiful order of it all. You see the moon wax and wane not because of some celestial whim, but in a rhythm so precise you can map its future for years to come. You see the planets, the stars that know no rest, wander across the constellations, not as omens, but on predictable paths. You might not know why they move that way. You may not have the concept of gravity or orbits, but you have the data. You have the proof, written in the sky every single night, that you live in a cosmos of profound order, not chaos. And that is your secret comfort. When your back aches and your eyes burn from staring into the darkness, you can hold on to that. When the high priest demands a theological treatise on a meteor shower, you can retreat into the quiet certainty of your own observations. They see magic, you see mathematics. They see divine moods, you see patterns. This private knowledge creates a different kind of connection to the divine, one that has little to do with the official pantheon. In the profound silence of the pre-dawn hours, when the whole of Egypt is asleep, you are alone with the machinery of creation. You are not just a priest, you are a confidant. The universe whispers its secrets to you, one deacon at a time, one planetary alignment at a time. And this intimacy is a reward that no amount of pharaonic gold can buy. It is a quiet, secret splendor. And you think of the future. You handle the scrolls of astronomers who lived 500 years before you. Their ink faded, their papyrus crumbling. They watched these same stars. They felt this same ache in their necks. They probably dealt with the same clueless apprentices. You are part of an unbroken chain, a lineage of sleepless watchers. And the meticulous records you keep, the ones stained with smudged ink and the occasional sacrificed mosquito, will be read by the astronomer who takes your place, and the one after him. You are building something, night by night. You are contributing to a library of knowledge that is greater than any single lifetime. Perhaps centuries from now, someone will look at your records of the star that dimmed, and with the benefit of hundreds more years of observation, will understand it not as an omen, but as a natural celestial phenomenon. You will be a nameless ancestor of a truth you yourself can't yet fully grasp, and there is a strange, quiet glory in that. You are a guardian of the future's understanding. So you pull your linen robe tighter against the night's chill. You sight the next deacon through your palm rib. The city is silent below, a sprawling shadow of slumbering lives. Above, the stars wheel in their majestic, silent dance. Your body is tired, your mind is weary, but for a moment all the frustration falls away. The politics, the omens, the impossible demands, it all disappears, and there is only you and the sky. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated peace. The beauty of it all floods in, and you remember why you do this for this silent, secret communion with eternity. And so his nights would pass, a lifetime spent in the quiet space between sunset and sunrise. The life of an Egyptian astronomer was a paradox. It was a role filled with immense pressure, public scrutiny, and the constant, wearying task of translating the elegant mathematics of the cosmos into the clumsy language of myth and fear. It was a job that demanded the precision of a scientist and the theatricality of a performer. In so many ways, it truly sucked to be an Egyptian astronomer. But maybe, just maybe, in those silent, solitary hours before the dawn, with the entire universe laid out before him like a secret manuscript, it was also the most beautiful job in the world. The same stars he watched, the same great celestial river we call the Milky Way, are the ones glittering outside your window right now. They connect us to him, to that silent watcher on a temple roof thousands of years ago. A quiet reminder that we are all, in our own way, just trying to make sense of the beautiful, mysterious darkness, the universe in a grain of sand. Now we're going to go on a slightly different kind of journey, not to a distant planet or a fiery nebula, but to something much, much smaller, something you could lose in the crease of your palm. We are going to hold a single grain of sand, and we are going to learn its story. We're going to trace its epic billion-year journey from the heart of a dying star to the quiet shore where it now rests. It's a story of violence and serenity, of unimaginable timescales and intimate connections. A story that proves the old poet's words were more than just a beautiful idea, that it is possible, if you look closely enough, to see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower. So settle in. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. Take a slow, deep breath and let it out just as slowly. Let's create our own little pocket of tranquility and begin. Imagine you are walking on a beach at twilight. The air is cool and tastes of salt. The sun has just dipped below the horizon, leaving behind a sky bruised with purple and rose and the softest, palest blue. The only sounds are the rhythmic sigh of the waves washing ashore and the distant cry of a gull. You bend down. The sand is cool and damp beneath your fingertips. You are not looking for a perfect shell or a piece of sea-worn glass. You are looking for just one single grain. You push your fingers into the sand, feeling the thousands, millions of tiny particles yielding around them. Then you pull back, and there, clinging to the tip of your index finger, is one single speck. Bring it closer. If you could, you would hold a magnifying glass to it, a lens powerful enough to reveal its true nature. It is not a perfect sphere. It is an irregular little world of its own. It's likely a tiny piece of quartz, translucent and crystalline. Light catches on its sharp yet softened edges. It looks simple, insignificant, a tiny forgotten fragment of a much larger world. But you and I, here in this quiet space, we know better. This is not an ending. This is not a final ground-down state of being. This tiny speck is a time capsule. It is a library. It is a messenger, carrying a story of such immense scale it almost defies comprehension. To know its story is to know the story of the universe itself. And it begins, as all things do, in fire. Let's leave this beach, this cool air, this gentle sound of the waves. Let's rewind the clock, not by a day or a year or even a million years. We are going back further. We are going back to a time before the earth existed, before the sun had even ignited. We are going back to the very beginning, 13.8 billion years ago. There is no time. There is no space. There is only a single point, a concentration of such impossible energy and density that our language, our physics, our very imaginations falter. And then, expansion. Not an explosion in space, but an explosion of space. The Big Bang. In the first frantic, incandescent seconds, there is only energy and a searing, formless plasma. There is no matter as we know it, no atoms, no light that could be seen. The universe is a thick, hot, opaque fog, but it is expanding, and as it expands, it cools. Slowly, glacially, over hundreds of thousands of years, it cools enough for the first, simplest atoms to form. This is the universe's nursery, and the firstborn children are hydrogen and helium, tiny, simple atoms. A single proton orbited by a single electron. That's hydrogen. The universe is now filled with vast, endless clouds of this elemental gas. It is a simple, almost featureless cosmos. It is a universe without complexity. It has no rocks, no water, no planets. It has no sand. Our little grain of sand, that tiny piece of quartz on your fingertip, is made primarily of two things, silicon and oxygen. Two elements that do not yet exist. In this early universe, the ingredients for our grain of sand are nowhere to be found. For them to be born, something truly spectacular must happen. A star must be built, and then it must die. Picture one of these immense clouds of hydrogen and helium, adrift in the blackness. It is trillions of miles across, yet its edges are so diffuse they are barely there. But it is not perfectly uniform. There are tiny, almost imperceptible variations in its density. And gravity, the patient, relentless sculptor of the cosmos, begins its work. A slightly denser region begins to pull more gas towards it. As more gas gathers, its gravitational pull increases, and it pulls in even more gas. It is a slow, inexorable feedback loop, playing out over millions of years. The cloud begins to collapse in on itself, swirling and spinning, pulling matter into a dense, hot, churning core. The pressure at the center of this collapsing cloud builds to an unimaginable degree. The simple hydrogen atoms, which have drifted alone for eons, are now crushed together with such ferocious intensity that they overcome their natural repulsion. They fuse. A hydrogen atom slams into another hydrogen atom, and in a flash of pure, brilliant energy, something new is created: helium. This is the moment of ignition. This is the birth of a star, a vast nuclear furnace burning in the blackness of space. For hundreds of millions of years, this first-generation star will live its life, fusing hydrogen into helium, a stable, stately process. But our elements, silicon and oxygen, are still not on the stage. For them to appear, the star must begin to die. When the star has converted most of the hydrogen in its core to helium, the outward pressure of its nuclear fusion begins to wane. Gravity, which has been held in a delicate balance for ages, begins to win. The core collapses further, and the temperature and pressure skyrocket to new, even more hellish levels. It becomes hot enough to fuse the helium atoms themselves. Now we are in the heart of a cosmic forge. Helium atoms, the ashes of the first fire, become the fuel for the next. 3 helium atoms are slammed together to create carbon. A carbon atom is fused with another helium atom to create oxygen. There it is, the first ingredient of our grain of sand. Born in the heart of a dying star, hundreds of millions of light years from where you are sitting now, billions of years in your past. This oxygen atom is a prisoner, trapped in the star's core, bound by its immense gravity. It knows nothing of oceans, or atmospheres, or life. It is simply a new and more complex arrangement of protons and neutrons, forged in a crucible of unimaginable heat and pressure. The star continues its frantic, desperate dance with death. It fuses carbon and helium to make neon, neon and helium to make magnesium, and finally, in this furious alchemy, it fuses heavier elements to create silicon. The second ingredient, the other half of our tiny speck of quartz. It too is born in this stellar furnace. It too is trapped. These atoms, the fundamental building blocks of the rock that will one day become our grain of sand, are now present. But they are scattered within the core of a star that is on the verge of a cataclysmic collapse. The star has spent its life creating heavier and heavier elements, a desperate attempt to stave off gravity's final victory. But it reaches a dead end. When the core is primarily made of iron, the process stops. Fusing iron does not release energy, it consumes it. The furnace sputters and goes out. And in an instant, in less time than it takes you to blink, the star dies. With the outward pressure of fusion gone, gravity wins, and it wins decisively. The star's core collapses in on itself with breathtaking speed. The outer layers, containing all those newly forged elements, the oxygen, the silicon, the carbon, all the ingredients for future worlds, come rushing inward, crashing into the impossibly dense core. And then, they rebound. The result is the most powerful and brilliant explosion the universe has to offer, a supernova. For a brief period, this single exploding star can outshine its entire galaxy. It is a spectacle of such violent, creative beauty that it seeds the cosmos with new possibilities. In this titanic explosion, our atoms of oxygen and silicon, which have been trapped for millions of years, are finally liberated. They are hurled out into interstellar space at incredible speeds, riding the shockwave of their parent star's demise. They are stardust, flung into the void. Now let's pause. Go back to that grain of sand on your fingertip, that tiny, quiet, seemingly insignificant speck. See it for what it is. It is not just rock, it is the ashes of a star. The silicon and oxygen atoms that make up its crystalline structure were born in a moment of cosmic alchemy and liberated in an explosion of unimaginable power. They are older than the Earth. They are older than the sun. They are travelers who have journeyed across epochs and light years to be here with you now. For millions of years, our atoms drift. They are part of a vast, expanding cloud of gas and dust, a beautiful, ghostly nebula painted across the blackness of space. This cloud is the debris of that supernova, rich with all the heavy elements that the star so painstakingly created. It is a cosmic recycling plant. The death of one star has provided the raw materials for the next generation. Our silicon and oxygen atoms drift and tumble in this celestial river. They might pass through the ethereal glow of a nearby star-forming region, illuminated in shades of pink and blue. They might journey through vast stretches of cold, lonely darkness. Over time, gravity, that patient artist, begins its work again. The cloud of gas and dust, the stellar remnant, begins to contract. Our atoms are drawn into a new gravitational center. A new protostar is forming at the heart of this nebula. This will be our star, our sun. But not all the material falls into the center. The cloud is spinning, and as it collapses, it flattens into a vast, rotating disk of gas and dust. This is the protoplanetary disk. This is the birthplace of the planets. It is a chaotic and violent place. Within this spinning disk, tiny dust grains, rich in silicon and oxygen, begin to collide. At first, they stick together through simple electrostatic forces, like dust bunnies under your bed. A few grains become a few hundred become a few thousand. Slowly, patiently, these tiny accretions grow. They become pebbles. The pebbles become rocks. The rocks, through endless collisions over millions of years, become planetesimals, the building blocks of planets, miles across. Our silicon atom and our oxygen atom, once separated by the chaos of a supernova, may now find each other again in this cosmic mosh pit. They become part of the same growing rock. They bond, forming silicon dioxide, quartz, a tiny crystalline structure within a larger growing body. They are home. They have found their place. This process is happening all across the protoplanetary disk. Closer to the young hot sun, the rocky planets are forming: Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Further out, where it is colder, the gas giants are gathering their immense atmospheres: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Our little piece of quartz is now part of a young, molten, violent Earth. The planet is a hellscape. It is bombarded by asteroids and comets, remnants of the solar system's formation. Volcanoes cover its surface, spewing gas and lava. The atmosphere is toxic. There is no liquid water, no life. It is a world still being forged. Our grain of sand, or rather, the rock that contains it, could be deep within the planet's mantle, subjected to intense heat and pressure. It could be part of the churning, molten surface. It is a participant in the planet's chaotic birth. For hundreds of millions of years, this is its reality. It is part of a larger whole, part of the very fabric of the planet. The Earth begins to cool. A crust forms. Comets and asteroids, rich with ice, continue to bombard the planet, delivering the water that will one day form the oceans. The atmosphere begins to change. The stage is being set. Our piece of quartz is locked away inside a vast formation of igneous rock, perhaps granite. It was born of fire in the belly of a star, and it is born of fire again in the belly of a planet. It is buried deep within a continental plate, part of the bedrock of this new world. It is subject to immense forces as tectonic plates grind against each other, as mountains are pushed up and continents drift. It has been born from a star, forged in a planet, and now it must be brought to the light. It must face the forces that will shape it, break it, and carry it across the face of the world. It must be liberated once more. For an immense stretch of time, nothing changes. Our piece of quartz, a tiny, perfect crystal embedded within a vast slab of granite, exists in a state of near total stillness. The darkness is absolute. The pressure is crushing, the weight of an entire continent above it. The silence is profound, broken only by the slow molecular creep of the rock itself. 100 million years pass. 200 million. Dinosaurs will rise, roam the earth, and vanish into history, and our piece of quartz will know nothing of it. It remains buried, a secret kept by the earth. But the earth is not a static ball of rock. It is a living, breathing body. Its skin, the crust, is broken into immense tectonic plates that drift on the molten mantle below. They are impossibly slow, moving no faster than your fingernails grow, but their momentum is unstoppable, and our slab of granite is part of one of these plates. And it is on a collision course. Imagine two continents, two colossal landmasses, slowly, inevitably, drifting towards one another across a shrinking ocean. The time scale is so vast, it's almost meaningless to us. But after 100 million years of this glacial advance, they meet. It is the slowest, most powerful collision imaginable. There is no sound, no sudden impact. It is a silent buckling. The edge of one continent is forced beneath the other, while the crust at the point of impact, with nowhere else to go, begins to rise. The Earth's skin wrinkles. A mountain range is being born. Our piece of quartz is at the heart of this transformation. The pressure intensifies to a degree that strains the very bonds of its atoms. The temperature rises as it's pushed and folded and crushed, but it holds. Quartz is strong, resilient. It endures as the rock around it is metamorphosed, bent, and stretched like taffy in slow motion. And it begins to move, upward. Millimeter by millimeter, century by century, it is lifted, pushed up from the crushing darkness towards a sky it has never known. This is the process of orogeny, of mountain building. It is the earth groaning in its sleep, and the result is a new spine of rock, clawing its way into the atmosphere. For millions of years, this uplift continues. The mountains climb higher and higher, majestic and new, and deep within the core of one of these new peaks, our piece of quartz, still locked in its granite prison, rises with them. And then one day, after an eternity in the dark, its journey upward is complete. The layers of rock and soil above it are finally worn away by the ceaseless action of wind and rain. For the first time in perhaps 1 billion years, our rock feels the sun. It has breached the surface. It is exposed, and with exposure comes a new set of forces, a new kind of assault, the forces of weathering. At first, it is the wind, a constant, whispering presence. It seems harmless, but it carries with it tiny abrasive particles of other, older rocks. It is a form of cosmic sandpaper, and over thousands of years it scours the surface of the granite, polishing it, but also exploiting any tiny weakness. Then comes the water. Rain falls on the new mountain. It is soft, but it is relentless, and it is not pure. As it falls through the atmosphere, it absorbs carbon dioxide, forming a weak carbonic acid. This acid seeps into the rock, dissolving the weaker minerals that bind the granite together. The feldspar, the mica, they begin to decay, turning to clay, loosening their grip on the hard, resilient crystals of quartz. But the most powerful agent of liberation is ice. Water, from rain or melting snow, seeps into a microscopic crack in the surface of the granite, a tiny fracture right alongside our piece of quartz. As night falls on the high mountain, the temperature drops below freezing. The water in that tiny crack turns to ice. When water freezes, it expands by about 9%. This may not sound like much, but trapped within the confines of a rock, this expansion exerts a colossal, irresistible pressure. It is a silent hydraulic wedge. The crack is forced open, just a hair's breadth wider. The next day, the ice melts. The next night, it freezes again, pushing the crack open further still. Night after night, year after year, this process of frost wedging repeats. It is a slow, patient, and utterly devastating attack. And then, one cold, brittle night, with a silent, internal fracturing that no one is there to hear, the granite gives way. A chunk of rock breaks free, and within that chunk is our crystal of quartz, now separated from the mountain that was its home for so long. And a little while later, perhaps during a spring thaw, that larger chunk is broken apart again by the same icy wedge, and our grain of sand is born. For the first time since it was formed in the protoplanetary disk, it is a separate entity, a single grain. It is sharp, angular, its facets glinting in the alpine sun. It is a perfect, tiny shard of its parent rock, a fragment of a memory of a mountain. But it will not stay here for long. A heavy rainstorm comes to the high peaks. Water cascades down the mountainside, gathering in rivulets, forming a torrent. It picks up our newly freed grain of sand and sweeps it away. The journey of 1 billion years in the dark is over. A new journey, a journey of tumbling and chaos, has just begun. It is washed into a small, frantic stream, which carves its way down the mountain. The world is a blur of motion. Our grain is thrown against other rocks, against the stream bed, against other grains of sand. It is a violent, churning existence. Tiny, microscopic pieces of its sharp edges are chipped away with every single collision. It is the beginning of a long, slow process of smoothing, a polishing that will erase the sharp memory of its violent birth. The stream joins a larger creek. The creek flows into a river. Our grain of sand is now part of the river's sediment load, a traveler on a great, watery highway. Its journey is not constant. Sometimes, when the river is flowing fast after a storm, it will be swept along for miles, tumbling and colliding, getting ever so slightly smaller, ever so slightly rounder. At other times, as the river's flow slackens, it will be deposited on a sandbar in the middle of the channel or on the inside bend of the river. And here it might rest, for a year, for a decade, for a century. It might be buried by other sediments, resting in the quiet dark once more, waiting for the next great flood to come and reawaken it, to pick it up and carry it further on its journey. Its existence is a series of frantic movements and long, peaceful pauses. It is carried through forests it cannot see, past fields it cannot know. It is part of the lifeblood of the continent, moving inexorably, inevitably downstream. With every mile it travels, with every collision it endures, it is changing. The sharp, angular shard that broke free from the mountain is slowly being transformed. Its edges are softened, its points are worn down. It is becoming more rounded, more familiar. It is becoming what we think of when we think of sand. It is losing its individual, jagged history and taking on a more universal shape, a shape formed by the shared experience of travel and time. This journey could take thousands, even tens of thousands of years. The river meanders, changes course. The grain of sand might be locked in a floodplain for a millennium before the river shifts and claims it again, but the direction is always the same, downstream, towards the great equalizer, towards the sea. And finally, the day comes. The river, which has been its home and its transport for so long, begins to change. The water slows, broadens. The scent in the air, if it could smell, would shift from the earthy tones of soil and vegetation to the sharp, clean tang of salt. The river is meeting the ocean. As the river's fresh water meets the ocean's salt water, its energy dissipates. It can no longer carry its heavy load of sediment, and so it lets go. In the quiet of the estuary, our grain of sand, along with trillions of its fellow travelers, is deposited. It sinks through the murky water and settles softly on the seabed. The journey is over, or so it seems. It is dark again here under the weight of the water. The light from the surface is a distant, shimmering memory. The pressure is immense, and slowly other sediments begin to rain down on top of it. Silt, clay, the bodies of microscopic marine organisms. It is being buried again. The first step in a process that could, over millions of years, turn it into sandstone and begin the cycle all over again. It seems it has traded one prison for another. But the ocean is not a quiet place, and its journey has one final, chaotic chapter. A great storm brews far out at sea. The wind whips the surface of the water into a frenzy. Huge waves, swells of immense energy, travel across the ocean. When they reach the shallower water near the coast, this energy is forced upward. The waves grow larger, more powerful, more violent. They crash onto the shore, but their energy doesn't stop there. It churns the seabed, stirring up the sediment that has been resting there. Our grain of sand is lifted from its resting place, thrown up into the turbulent water caught in the surf zone. This is a new kind of tumbling. It is a rhythmic, back and forth washing machine motion. It is scoured against the seabed, against other grains. Any final, tiny sharpness it possessed is now worn away. It is smooth. It is finished. And then, one wave, a little stronger than the rest, carries it further up the beach than before. The water peaks, then recedes, draining back into the sea, but its grip is no longer strong enough. It leaves our grain of sand behind. It is lying on the surface. The storm passes, the sun comes out, the water clinging to it evaporates. It is dry, it is still, and it is waiting for you. And we are back where we started, on a beach at twilight with a single grain of sand resting on your fingertip. But now it is not an insignificant speck. It is a hero, a survivor, a time traveler. You know its story. You know that its atoms were forged in the heart of a star that died before our sun was born. You know that it was a prisoner in the dark for 1 billion years, lifted to the sky in the slow birth of a mountain. You know that it was freed by the patient power of ice and tumbled for millennia in a river, its sharp edges worn smooth by a journey of 1,000 miles. You know that it rested on the floor of the ocean before being thrown onto this shore by the violence of a storm. All of that history, all of that time and violence and patience is held there, in that tiny, translucent world in your palm. And it is not alone. The beach is made of trillions of such grains, each with its own unique story, its own epic journey. And its story is not over. The wind could pick it up and carry it inland to become part of a dune. The tide could reclaim it and pull it back into the sea. Or, in a future so distant it strains the imagination, it could be buried, compressed into rock, and lifted into a mountain range that does not yet exist. Its journey is eternal. The next time you stand by the ocean, feel the sand beneath your feet. Know that you are not standing on a simple surface. You are standing on the ruins of mountains, on the dust of stars. You are standing on the culmination of billions of years of cosmic and geologic history. And you, a collection of stardust yourself, are for a fleeting moment, a part of its story, just as it is a part of yours, building a home on Mars. Now our journey takes us to a place that has haunted the human imagination for centuries, a world painted in shades of rust and twilight, a silent, ruddy neighbor in the velvet darkness. We are going to Mars. But we are not going as visitors. We are not going as explorers on a frantic, flag-planting mission. We are going as the first generation of builders, the first gardeners, the first true Martians. We are going to explore the quiet, colossal, and often heartbreaking task of building a home on a world that does not want us. It is a story of immense technology and simple human loneliness. A story of grand, generational dreams and the small, daily tasks required to make them real. So, dim the lights. Let your body feel heavy and still. Take a slow breath of the familiar air around you and appreciate its richness. Now, let's journey together to a place where every breath is a miracle and every sunrise is a triumph. The first thing you notice is the silence. It is not the peaceful quiet of a remote forest on Earth. This is a deep, fundamental silence. The silence of a world without life, without wind in trees, without the gentle patter of rain. The only sounds are the ones you brought with you, the ever-present low hum of the carbon dioxide scrubbers, the faint whir of the circulation fans, and the rhythmic clicking of a data relay. These are the sounds of your survival. The symphony of your fragile, manufactured life. You are awake. Your internal chronometer, synced to the 24-hour, 39-minute Martian sol, has gently roused you from a shallow, necessary sleep. The light filtering through the small, triple-pane portal is not the warm, yellow light of an earthly dawn. It is a thin, pale, salmon-colored light that seems to hold no warmth at all. It is the light of a sun that is almost twice as far away as the one you were born under. You swing your legs out of your sleeping bunk, and for a moment you feel that familiar, buoyant lightness. The gravity here is only 38% of Earth's, a small, constant reminder that you are not home. Every step is a little too long, every object feels a little too light. Your body, after all this time, has adapted, but your mind still carries the ghost of a heavier world. You are a geotechnical engineer, a planetary architect, a terraformer, first class. Those are the grand titles. The reality is that you are a farmer, a plumber, and a glorified janitor at the edge of human existence. Your job, this sol, is the same as it was the sol before, and the same as it will be tomorrow. You keep the dream alive. Your home is Endurance Base, a small collection of interconnected, semi-buried, inflatable habitats. A tiny, pressurized bubble of life in an ocean of near vacuum and lethal radiation. You walk through the narrow corridor to the central commons. The air tastes clean but sterile, with a faint metallic tang from the water reclamation system. Every drop of water you drink, every molecule of oxygen you breathe is a marvel of recycling. You are part of a closed loop, a self-sustaining ecosystem for a population of 12. You look out of the main viewport, a thick, curved piece of fused silica that is your only true window onto this world. And what a world it is. The landscape is a sublime, terrible, beautiful monotony. Red, ochre, butterscotch-colored sand and rock, stretching to a horizon that seems both too close and infinitely far away. The sky above is a pale, pinkish tan, thin and ethereal. There are no clouds. There is no weather as you once knew it. There is only the endless, silent, dusty expanse. This is your canvas, your challenge, your life's work. To look upon this magnificent desolation and not to see an ending, but a beginning. To see a canvas waiting for its first stroke of green. After a breakfast of nutrient paste and hydroponically grown greens, you begin your rounds. Your first stop is the atmospheric processor. Unit 7. It's one of the machines outside, a squat, resilient box that is performing a slow, planetary-scale magic trick. It inhales the thin, carbon dioxide-rich Martian atmosphere, and through a complex process of electrolysis, it splits the CO2 molecules. It keeps the oxygen, pumping a tiny fraction into your habitat's life support, and vents the carbon monoxide as waste. Moxie, they called the prototype on the Perseverance rover. Yours are its great-grandchildren. They work day and night, tirelessly, patiently. It will take 1,000 years for machines like this to create an atmosphere thick enough to breathe. 1,000 years. You are not building a world for you. You are not even building it for your children's children. You are a medieval cathedral builder, laying the first stones of a structure you will never see completed, a testament to a faith in a future you can only dream of. You check the processor's efficiency, monitor its power draw from the vast, dusty solar arrays. Everything is nominal. One more sol, a few more kilograms of oxygen have been won from this stubborn world. It is a victory measured in molecules. Next, the ice drills. Deep beneath your feet, buried under meters of red regolith, lies the great treasure of Mars. Water. Not liquid water, but vast sheets of ancient, frozen water. Your base is strategically placed over one of these deposits. The automated drills bore into the permafrost, heat the ice, and pipe the resulting water vapor to your storage tanks. This water is everything. It is for drinking, for irrigating your crops, for splitting into hydrogen for fuel and oxygen for breathing. Water is the currency of life here, and you are its meticulous accountant. You spend a few hours analyzing seismic data, ensuring the drills are stable, that you aren't creating a cavity that could compromise the habitat above. The work is focused, methodical. It is easy, in these moments, to forget where you are. You are just a technician looking at data on a screen, and then you look up through the portal of the workshop and you see it. Phobos, the larger of Mars's two tiny, misshapen moons, zips across the sky. It is not the stately, serene orb of Earth's moon. It is a captured asteroid, a cosmic potato, racing across the heavens as if it's late for an appointment. It rises in the west and sets in the east, sometimes twice in one sol. It is a constant, unsettling reminder of the alien nature of this place. This is not Earth's sky. These are not Earth's rules. The heart of the base, the heart of your entire mission, is the hydroponics bay. The moment the sealed door slides open, you are transported. Not to Earth, not really, but to a memory of it. The air here is thick, humid, and alive with the smell of wet soil and green, growing things. Rows upon rows of lettuce, tomatoes, soybeans, and wheat grow under the intense purple-white glare of full-spectrum LEDs. The quiet hum of the base is replaced here by the gentle gurgle of nutrient pumps and the whisper of fans circulating the rich, oxygenated air. This is your sanctuary. This is the only place you can breathe air that was made by a leaf, not a machine. You run your fingers over the delicate, veined surface of a tomato leaf. It is the softest thing you have felt all week. In a world of metal, plastic, and rock, this small biological softness feels like the most profound luxury. This is the front line of terraforming. Before you can dream of greening a planet, you must first master the art of keeping a single room green. You check the pH levels of the nutrient solution, inspect the leaves for any sign of deficiency or blight. A failure in this room would be more catastrophic than a broken atmospheric processor. A mechanical failure is a problem of engineering. A biological failure would be a crisis of hope. It would be a reminder that life is fragile and that this world is, by its very nature, hostile to it. You spend a long time here, longer than you need to. You breathe deeply. You close your eyes and, for a moment, you can almost imagine you are in a greenhouse back on Earth. You can almost hear the buzz of a bee, the chirping of a cricket. But when you open your eyes, there is only the sterile white of the habitat walls and the unwavering purple glow of the LEDs. The dream fades, and you are on Mars again. The afternoon is reserved for communication. You sit in the small, soundproofed comms pod and review the latest data packet from Earth. It is an 8-hour-long stream of mission updates, personal messages, news, and entertainment, compressed and sent across 200 million kilometers of empty space. The time delay is a chasm that can never be bridged. Real-time conversation is impossible. You are living with a constant 20-minute lag. You send a message, a video of you smiling, saying you are well, and then you wait. 40 minutes for a reply to your smile. You live in the past, the present, and the future, all at once. You are a ghost in the lives of your loved ones, and they are ghosts in yours. You watch a video from your sister. She is at a beach. The sound of the waves, the cries of the gulls, the laughter of her children. It is almost painful to watch. The sensory richness of it is overwhelming. She holds up her child, who waves at the camera, at the uncle or aunt who lives on a red star in the night sky, and you feel a pang of longing so sharp and so deep it almost takes your breath away. This is the true hardship of Mars. It is not the dust, or the radiation, or the tedious work. It is the loneliness, a profound, existential isolation that comes from being one of a tiny handful of souls on an entire planet, separated from the whole of your species by an ocean of vacuum so vast it takes light itself minutes to cross. Why do you do it? You ask yourself this question in the quiet moments, looking out at the red desert. You are not here for fame or for wealth. You are here because humanity, at its best, has always been a restless species. We have always looked at the horizon and wondered what was beyond it. We crossed oceans on fragile wooden ships. We climbed mountains because they were there. And we looked at this red point of light in our sky, and we dreamed. You are the living embodiment of that dream. You are here to do more than just survive. You are here to plant a garden, to take a dead world and coax it, over centuries, into a semblance of life. You are carrying a torch, not of fire, but of biology. You are the guardian of a single precious seed, the idea of Earth. The idea that life is not a fluke confined to one small blue world, but a force that can take root in the most unlikely of places. But the universe constantly reminds you of the fragility of this dream. One evening, as you are cataloging geological samples, a sharp ping echoes through the habitat's hull. Everyone freezes. The sound is unmistakable. A micrometeoroid, a tiny grain of sand, no bigger than the ones on your sister's beach, traveling at orbital velocity. It has struck the outer skin of the habitat. The alert panels flash. A minor pressure drop in an outer storage locker. A secondary seal has held. The danger passes in an instant, but the adrenaline remains. It is a reminder that you are living inside a ship, and outside is an unforgiving vacuum. A slightly larger grain, a slightly worse angle, and your entire world could have ended in a puff of escaping air. You are safe, but the illusion of permanence is shattered, and for the rest of the night, the silence outside seems a little deeper, a little more menacing. Then come the dust storms. They are not the violent, swirling tornadoes of Hollywood movies. They are slow, silent apocalypses. A haze appears on the horizon one sol. The next, it has covered half the sky. A few sols later, the entire planet is shrouded in a thick, ochre fog. The sun becomes a faint, ghostly smudge in the sky and then disappears entirely. The power from your solar arrays dwindles to almost nothing. The base switches to its nuclear power core, a reliable but finite source of energy. You are plunged into a state of perpetual twilight. For weeks, you cannot see the stars. You cannot see the sun. You cannot see more than a few feet from the viewport. Your world shrinks to the inside of these few interconnected rooms. The isolation becomes profound. The red desert, your constant companion, is gone, replaced by an impenetrable, suffocating wall of red. The hum of the life support seems louder now, more desperate. You spend more time in the hydroponics bay, seeking the reassurance of its living greenness. You read old books, you watch old movies. You try not to think about the thinness of the walls separating you from the silent planetary storm outside. You are truly adrift, a tiny capsule of humanity in a sea of red dust. And then, just as slowly as it came, the storm recedes. The dust settles. The sun returns, first as a smudge, then as a sharp, clear disk in the thin sky. You emerge from your psychological bunker, blinking in the renewed light. The landscape is subtly different. New dunes have formed. Old tracks have been erased. Mars has wiped its slate clean, and your work begins again. One sol, you are given a special task. It is a symbolic one, but it feels more important than anything you have ever done. You are to plant the first seed, not in the sterile, controlled perfection of the hydroponics bay, but outside. You don an exosuit, a cumbersome, life-sustaining machine that is your own personal habitat. You step out onto the surface, your boots crunching in the fine, red dust. The silence is absolute. Inside your helmet, you can hear only the sound of your own breathing and the hum of your suit's systems. You walk to a small, prepared patch of ground near the base. Here, for months, automated systems have been processing the native regolith, removing the toxic perchlorates, enriching it with nutrients, and mixing it with a water-retaining gel. It is a tiny patch of manufactured Earth soil, a garden plot on Mars. From a sterile container, you take a single, precious seed. It is not a flower or a vegetable. It is a species of lichen, one of the hardiest, most resilient organisms on Earth, crossbred for generations to withstand cold and radiation. It is life at its most stubborn. With your thick, clumsy gloves, you place the seed in the prepared soil. You cover it gently. You activate the tiny irrigation system that will give it a few precious drops of water each sol. And that's it. You stand up and look at the small, insignificant patch of dirt. It is a prayer, an offering, a question asked of the universe. It will probably not survive. The radiation is too intense, the cold too deep, but that is not the point. The point is that you are trying. The point is that you knelt down on the soil of another world and planted something. You have made a promise to this desolate world, a promise of a future, a promise of green. That night, you cannot sleep. You go to the main viewport and look up at the alien sky. The stars are brilliant, sharp, and cold in the thin atmosphere, with none of the twinkling you remember from Earth. You see the familiar shapes of constellations, but they are distorted, seen from a new perspective. And then you see it. A bright, bluish-white star, shining steadily in the darkness. It is Earth. It is not a pale blue dot. It is a point of light, It is everything you have ever known, everyone you have ever loved, reduced to a single distant star. You are not looking at a planet. You are looking at a sun that warms another tribe of your species. And you feel a profound and aching sense of purpose. You are an emissary, an outpost, a gardener sent to prepare a new field, a new home, under a new sun. You know you will not live to see it. You will not walk under a blue Martian sky or swim in a Martian sea. Your life will be spent in service to this dream, checking gauges, analyzing data, and tending to your small, precious garden. Your bones will likely rest here, becoming part of the world you tried to build. But as you look at the pale blue star of Earth, you know that it is enough to be the first, to lay the foundation, to plant a single hopeful seed in the red dust. It is more than enough. It is everything. And so the soul ends and another begins. The quiet, relentless work continues. Building a home on Mars is not a single act of heroism, but a million small acts of patience and hope. It is the story of humanity at its most audacious and its most vulnerable. It is the dream of turning a planet into a garden, one seed, one breath, one lifetime at a time. The same spirit that drives our Martian gardener to look out at a desolate landscape and see a future home is the same spirit that drives us here on Earth to build, to create, to nurture. The longing for a place to belong, a place to put down roots, is a fundamental part of who we are. It connects us across any distance, even the vast, silent gulf between the worlds. Thank you for joining me on this journey tonight. I hope it has brought you a sense of quiet wonder. As you drift off to sleep, think of that pale blue star in the Martian sky. It's a reminder that even in the vastest of silences, we are not truly alone. We are connected by the stories we tell and the dreams we share. Until next time, sleep well.